The pre-approval lie, why most buyers are set up to fail. Does that really happen? Let's talk about that. I'll be back in just a second. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Inside the Deal Through Michael's Eyes. It's a fresh take on real estate and business in general. My name is Michael Renick, and I am your host for this podcast. After a 31-year career at General Motors, I retired at a young age of 52 and moved right into real estate. The purpose of the podcast is to combine both my GM and my business, or my GM and my real estate experience. We want to go beyond the surface, offering a candid look at how business should be done right. I'm tired of some of the things I see out there, and we want to make sure that things are done the right way. So my guest today, my partner in crime, is Don B. I call him the mortgage coach. Let me quickly explain why. When my clients need a great mortgage person, Don is the only one I refer to these days. Over the years, he has demonstrated the same passion as I have, that doing business the right way is the only way. As we all know, the mortgage process is a complex one. With an extended partner such as Don, we have someone that guides my clients seamlessly through the process and delivers a quality product each and every time. What I personally like about Don is that he does not offer excuses, but instead he works to find a solution even in the most difficult cases. Don, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. Pre-approval lie. Those are some pretty strong words. Maybe we begin by talking about different levels of pre-approvals. What makes sense? Go ahead.
I'm going to throw a curveball at you here today.
I like that. You're getting more comfortable with these. This is good.
What does this sound like to you? Hello, Mike. Yeah, let's do a pre-approval. How much money do you make?
I make $100,000 a year.
And what monthly debts?
That's lie number one.
And what monthly debts do you have?
Right now I owe nothing.
Great. Here's your pre-approval letter. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, I like the fact that I got the letter, but when you look behind the scenes, there's this process that's very painful. I call it underwriting. Are they going to take that?
No, it's just, again, drilling down to was that enough information to get a pre-approval letter?
No, it wasn't.
But if you're the consumer, you're the buyer, man, I got my letter, look how much I can buy. And then you go under contract. 2 weeks later, lender calls and said, "Oh, I'm sorry. You're a commission employee, or you're self-employed, or you get a 1099 instead of a W-2, or a lot of that income you gave me was overtime." All those questions were never asked up front. So that pre-approval letter, what good is it?
Was I even telling the truth about my income?
Well, let's assume that the 1099 said 100,000. So the point is, I'm just making the assumption of the borrowers being honest, and a lot of times they just don't realize that there's more that you got to drill down to.
So what I like to do, so sometimes when we're working with a mortgage client, they're competing with a cash offer. So I sit down and I explain, and I'm going to ask you to share some facts here in a second, why my offer is as strong as a cash offer. Now, if that's the case, how did I get my mortgage person to that level of strength? I didn't do a pre-approval the way you just shared, did I?
No, in fact, this is one of the things we try to educate the borrower on, because at some point you're going to be in a bidding war. Hopefully not, but let's say you are. And I don't know what it is about real estate. You tell me. A house could sit for weeks and weeks and weeks. As soon as one offer goes in, three come with it. It boggles my mind. But anyhow,
it's a law of nature that we just don't understand. Because I've been in the longest is the house was on the market for 2 years. My buyer went after it, and we were in a bidding war. It's just unreal.
So why not be prepared for that, Mike? Just what if? And not only that, And we're going to get into the weeds with what these levels of approvals are in a second, but why not do it? And if there is a little blemish on your credit report, or if there's a credit card that might be a little bit of a high balance, we've got time to fix it so that we can get your score improved, so that we can get a better interest rate, better approval, and you're in a much better position all the way around. So that's my premise for why it's important to educate the borrower. If you can tell, I like to move around. And if I tie my hands behind my back, Mike, I can't talk, just so you know.
That's perfectly fine.
But you get the idea. If the consumer realized the value, because this is all free, if they just understood the value of getting some good information for free, what can it hurt? Instead of, hey, Don, I know it's 6:30, but we got to get this offer in before 8 o'clock tonight because it's the highest and best, and our offer, I need this letter now. And then what do you do? It's a fire drill.
Yeah.
And the stress is so excruciating for the buyer. It's so unnecessary. Okay.
So that's why I like to have this conversation with the buyer and their mortgage person way up front. It's about preparing. That way I can put my buyer in a lot stronger position when we go forward, because when a buyer writes an offer, they obviously want that home, and I don't want to disappoint them. So I come to you, let's say the buyer comes to you and they're saying, I want to get ready. Mike's my broker and we're going to move forward. What do you recommend they go through to be in the strongest position possible, Don?
Well, let's work that way. We usually say, what's the easiest to the best? Let's go from the best to the easiest. The best is you literally do a mortgage. I'm not even going to call it an application, because you're applying for nothing. You don't have a house, but you're doing a mortgage questionnaire, let's call it.
Okay.
And the questionnaire is going to ask you all the information that we need. For example, the way I go about asking questions, and I don't know if it's the right way, it just works for me, is I'll ask, are you hourly or salary? And immediately the borrower has to drill down in their pay stub and say, I'm not, I'm self-employed. Or, well, I own a business, I change it, from week to week or month to month, whatever. All that, so that brings all the information up to the surface, so I know what kind of questions ask. So to answer your question, Mike, I prefer not giving this big laundry list, because it's pretty scary if I list everything that everybody needs. So what I choose to do is do the interview 2-3 minutes, and then based upon what their circumstance is, ask for the information necessary for that circumstance. Let me give you an example. If you're a W-2 employee, no overtime, you're just straight salary, you get the same paycheck every single month. You know what I need? One pay stub and one W-2. What if you told me I'm self-employed? Now I need 2 years tax returns. If you get 1099s from different companies, I'll need your 1099s. If you're commission, overtime, bonus, I need to average those over 24 months. So you can see how more detailed, how much more information you need to ask for. So in my view, why ask for it if I don't need it? Just making it harder for you. So the answer to your question is, we need income docs. I was going to get to the answer eventually, right? You need income docs.
You know, when I edit the video, I can get you there a lot quicker.
And I'll talk forever, so you don't have to say anything. So I ask for income docs, and then I'll ask for assets. We got to show that you have the money somewhere to put down or pay for the closing costs of this transaction. So we want to verify it. So we need assets, income, and from that point, if you own multiple rental properties, it gets a little more complicated. If you own no other properties, that's really all you need.
Do you take all this, and ultimately, do you, to have the strongest approval possible, do you take it to an underwriter to go through this?
That's the ultimate approval, which makes the buyer a cash buyer.
By the way, that was the answer I was looking for 10 minutes ago. That's all right.
You know what? I deserve that.
So we gotta have some fun on this thing, Don. I think the world of you. Go ahead. So you're going to turn to our buddies, right? Our friends, the underwriters.
So we take that information and we walk it down the hallway, and the underwriter, that's the person with the green teeth. They're chained to their desk. Their knuckles drag across the floor nobody can talk to them. They're
slide it under the door, right? They slide it back
out of their cage once a year. Those people look at your file, and then they'll make the credit decision, sign off on it. And now what happened? Your mortgage is done. So now you're literally a cash buyer. Literally.
So you have final approval, with the only exception being, will the property appraise, correct?
And you know what? From my perspective, my job, I'm concerned about the collateral, yes. But for competing with another cash person, you're on a level playing field now. So to answer your question, we still are going to have to find out the property is worth what they're paying for it.
Is there different terminology? Like we talked about a pre-approval that was virtually worthless about a few minutes ago when we started the podcast. I wouldn't call this a pre-approval. What would you call this level?
This is a mortgage commitment.
Okay.
It's a commitment to lend money. And that's what your approval says. Commit to lend.
Okay. And are there some steps in between the pre-approval and the commitment?
To make this very concise, there are multiple steps, multiple levels, but the other level is one where I still take the paper and then I look at it. I'm not the underwriter. I don't have I got hairy knuckles, but I don't have knuckles dragging across the floor and green teeth. I don't have the ability to say, yes, I'm going to lend you the money, but I have the ability to say, hey, based on what you gave me, you were going to be good. My 38 years of doing this says you're going to be okay.
So when I approach this, I ask the buyer, we're looking at homes and stuff like that, and they find the home that they like. And before we take any next steps, and even before we get that far, before we start, I ask the buyer, if you found the home that you really like, are you serious about getting it over the finish line? And I'll tell you why I asked that in a minute. And they're going to say yes. Do I have your permission, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, then to put you in the best possible position so that when you write that offer, we can hit a home run? And they're going to say yes. So I'm going to say, based on the fact that we're going to use a mortgage vehicle to bring this home, here's the steps I want you to go through. And that's exactly when I turn them over to you, or if they have their own lender. And this is what I'm asking them to go through. Let's make you strong before we even start looking at homes. Now, if we're just kind of looking around and we're not certain, I get it. It doesn't make sense for the buyer to go through all that steps right now. But
I disagree.
No, go ahead.
You know what? I disagree with Mike, because
you disagree?
I like that. If they're 6 months away and there's something little, we got time to fix it.
Okay. Oh, excellent.
I don't know how to explain. We can fix things. If 9 times out of 10, not always, but anyhow, you get the idea. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
this is great.
I just want people to get educated, and it's going to help you with not only buying a house, your car insurance, your life insurance, your renter's insurance, your homeowners. Everybody pulls a credit report down. Go get a car loan. 16 people pull your credit.
Well, based on what we shared on an earlier podcast, they don't always do that on a car loan, because remember, I went into 3 banks and walked away and they wouldn't even talk to me. So that's a whole other podcast, another issue there.
But you get the idea. So put yourself in the best position you can be for the rest of your, for other things, for your whole life.
So that's why an experienced real estate agent is required, because he or she knows how to put you in the best position, and they need to partner with an experienced mortgage broker like Don here. Because I don't want to get to the end and disappoint my buyer. That's not what I'm all about here. I want the buyer to be happy. And if it's a home they want, I want to get it for them for the good price. I want to get this thing closed as fast as we can so they can move on and start doing the redecorating or whatever. But if we're not this meticulous, we don't dive down this deep, you completely raise the risk of this thing not happening. Does that make sense?
It does. And there's nothing more crushing than somebody be so excited for a property. They think or they know they can afford it, but they don't qualify for it. And that's just so heartbreaking when you get in those situations, because now, we've already pictured ourselves with our family in this house. And then if we can't do it, it's disheartening, and it's unfortunate. Shouldn't get to that way.
I get this is kind of a side. I don't know if you notice I'm looking down at my watch. This is unbelievable. I just got a text from LifeLock by Norton Alert. It says you have a new credit. Someone had just pulled a credit thing, and there's no reason that should be happening right now. If I'm buying an asset right now, I'm totally unaware of it. So right after this podcast, I'm going in to find out what the heck's going on.
Yeah, that's not good, right?
Maybe some of those banks I was talking to on the car loan are finally going to start to pull the report. But anyway, so it's about doing the right thing. It's about digging down to the deep. We started out by saying the pre-approval lie, and that can be because you very well, a buyer doesn't know. They don't do this every day. They don't do it for a living. They have this paper from their mortgage person, and they think they're ready to go. It's our job to make sure we do it the right way. Does that make sense?
100%. That was the goal. That was my intention of this little conversation, was just to, make everybody aware things can be fixed. Sometimes they need time, but you can't do it if you have an hour.
Yep. Nope. I get that. Don, I want to thank you again. 2 points as we close. Correct pronunciation of your last name and also your phone number for the folks that are listening.
Don Bartolomucci, 941-227-7618.
Don, I want to thank you. Another great podcast. Thank you.